Greetings, YouTube. Today I'm going to talk about Mongrelmen. Now, for those that don't know, Mongrelmen are a race of humanoids. I think they were first introduced in 1st edition D&D. That are a conglomeration, a hybrid of a dozen or 24 different genetic lineages. Now, they could have similar skull shapes and pointed ear on one side, not pointed on the other, different hands, different size limbs. They could have fur in one area and scales in another with an insect leg thrown in. They, in essence, are the ultimate mishmash, a mongrel of all the different humanoid races that are in your standard or your classic D&D setting. Now, I haven't used Mongrelmen since 2nd edition. And at this point in time, I'm completely disgusted with all half races of any kind. I'm never planning on using them again. I'm tired of them. Because apparently in the D&D world, genes are really plastic. But I've always had a soft spot for the Mongrelmen. Because the Mongrelmen are the best example I can think of a game designer taking something to its logical conclusion. Now, in D&D, you have lots of hybrid creatures. They're everywhere. And you have lots of half races. They are also everywhere. So if you have lots of hybrid races and lots of half races, it is a logical conclusion that eventually you're gonna have Mongrelmen. You can't not have them. It's just what's going to happen. And it was that application of the concept of a consequence taken to its logical extreme that I loved. It was one of the few times in any form of fiction I've ever seen where people have actually followed things all the way down the line to where they go, regardless of whether or not it ends up being where it started. And that's refreshing. For example, one of the best examples I can see that fails miserably at this are the Star Trek universe. It's like they come up with great ideas and then they forget them by the next episode. No one ever takes anything to its logical conclusion. There is no research. And I used them in 2nd edition. I used them quite well, and I had fun with them. They were kind of goofy. And they were, they're a little pathos, a little humor thrown in there, because they're the underlings. They're the Morlock race that, lives in the shadow of everyone else because they are this hideous conglomeration of all these other different traits. And at one point, I used a wizard that had a citadel that was half in a D&D campaign setting and half in a Gamma World post-apocalyptic setting. He was working on combining magic and mutations to create new races. And I used that particular wizard in at least 3 different campaigns, both Gamma World and AD&D, because, there's nothing like throwing a loop to your average character when an orc is fire-breathing. Or, when a mutant creature that you've seen before has magical powers attached to it. So that kind of freaky thing was a lot of fun. I had a good time with it. And actually, it got one guy a wife, I believe. He picked up a mutant tiger female as a spouse. It was kind of interesting. But I loved the fact that the Mongrelmen were present in the world and that they were this weird mix. It just made me smile, even though I would probably never use them again, ever. So I have a question for my viewers. Have you ever used Mongrelmen, or something similar to them? Or do you know of any other game, an example, where someone took something to its logical conclusion? That they took it all the way out there, where something's, the logical consequences, the internal consistency of a world was actually consistent.